It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
Well, all right. Welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass podcast with Chuck and Daniel. Today we got Daniel Fielding, who wrote a book, The Asset Mindset. Dan, I don't know. First, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So myself, I'm a guy that just grew up in a blue collar family. My dad was my biggest, mentor and hero in the beginning. Grew up through life playing sports, doing football, karate, played baseball a little bit. Went to college to get a degree and my real estate license, and then 9/11 happened and changed my world, like it changed so many others' world and lives. And I had to do something, so I ended up joining the military, the U.S. Army, and becoming a Green Beret with the 7th Special Forces Group. And did that for a little while, and then got out and worked as a Department of Defense contractor with active duty troops, and also had some time doing security for Kid Rock back when I first got out. And now that I live in Nashville, I'm back to doing security for him again. Been a little over 2+ years. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's been an interesting ride, interesting life. So that's a quick little summary. But if you want to know more, I mean, there is the book.
There you go. That's the answer, right? Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that sounds like every kid's dream, go around with a rock star and be a special forces guy. You're kind of cover it all there.
Yeah,
Where are you from?
amazing.
What state did you grow up in as a kid? I mean, you said Nashville now, but
I was born just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, so on the South Shore, and grew up there. Like I said, blue collar family. We had some land, we had chickens. I was born in the 70s, so it was not like it is today. We came home like when it was dark. You didn't know where you're going to go and who you were going to hang out with. It just kind of happened, and if you came home after dark, then you got in trouble. But yeah, so I grew up in Massachusetts originally.
nice. Yeah, no, I'm from New York, but I don't know, the last about 5 years ago, the taxes got to me and down in North Carolina now. So I don't know, a little bit of excitement. Yeah, no, I was in the Navy. I on a guided missile cruiser from 96 to like 2002, somewhere around there. So yeah, no, September 11th, I was still in. I was in Norfolk that morning, and my ship actually was in New York Harbor that evening. So
Wow.
they like, up and go, and being from New York, I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
intense. Um, so what is the asset mindset? Like, what's the idea? Like, I don't know. What's the takeaway we're looking for, I guess, with
Well,
that?
the asset mindset is a life philosophy, pretty much. Like there's a lot of books on mindset, like who to think certain ways. Well, the asset mindset is a philosophy for life that goes across the board in everything you're doing. You kind of judge everything as it's an asset or a liability in your life. Are you with good people or are you with bad people that are bringing you down? Are you doing a career or job that you love? Are you doing things you're passionate about? So it's a mindset where you're realizing, hey, I am my greatest asset in life. I have more ability to affect my life and change than anybody else. So that's number one. The first thing you need to realize in the asset mindset is that you're the driver, in your car of life. You
You're
need to take,
accountable for you, huh?
yes, yeah, you need to own it, own the power. I say all the time when I sign my books, I'm like, own the power, like own your own power. Realize if you don't
Nice.
like your job, go find another one. How many people complain about their job, then go home, have dinner, and watch TV? Like, build a
Yeah.
resume, go out there, do a side hustle, get something going. Like, you have nobody to blame, especially nowadays with technology.
Yeah.
Even if you don't like technology that much, you can YouTube things, you can learn stuff. It's all out there. You just need to do the work.
That's one of the things I think, like, they always say with, like you said, you kind of create your world, I guess, is how I interpret what you're saying. I mean, you choose what you choose to be around, and who you hang out with, and what kind of things you focus on. No, I read most of the book, and it was a lot of that kind of, it's the people you surround yourself with. They say you can, take the average income of like the six closest friends, and then that should be like your income, because you kind of, it's that what you believe you're capable of, and also that idea of people tend to focus on negativity or focus on the positive, and it's just like you pick one or the other and you choose the world you make. So no, I appreciate that.
No, absolutely. And you're bringing into the second point when you talk about, the people you're around.
Right here.
So that's one of your choices.
Yeah.
So the people you're around do rub off on you. They're influences. Like, there's nothing more influential. I saw in a recent Harvard study. I wish I could quote, what study number, or people could go look it up. But it was saying one of the great successes, or to be successful in life, is surrounding yourself with positive people that are going to lift you up, or that are winners, or that are going out there and doing things and achieving goals. If you're with people that are just complaining, I mean, I like to have a good time, barbecue, cookout, tend to party, whatever. That's all you do. That's around and drinking beer, maybe watching football. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but you need to have something else that's like the highlight of your week, or something that is, unless you're passionate and you're a player and you're involved that way and that's your dream, great. But my point is, don't waste your time on doing things that aren't going to change your life. And don't waste your time with people that aren't helping you or motivating you.
Yeah. And that's where it's always so discouraging. You see everybody get so kind of caught up in social media and stuff like that. Like, there's benefits. I mean, honestly, in my mind, you could watch TV 3 or 4 hours a day, and if you were watching the right stuff, it could be an asset and a good thing.
Absolutely.
Like I don't see that as it has to be bad, but maybe watching, reruns of Seinfeld or something, or whatever people watch. I don't know. I haven't had cable in forever, but that's the thing. Like, it doesn't have to be bad. Podcasts can be really, good. I know when I listen to like certain music, I can be like inspired, and it makes me better. So I'm not saying like social media has to be bad. It can bring good things. And honestly, watching YouTube can make you, better, and get you closer to your goals if you're doing that all day. But people get so caught up in nonsense and just like kind of time wasting, or I guess it's distractions, right? People get, things to basically, oh, I don't want to deal with life, so I'm going to, play Command and Conquer for 20 hours or whatever it is they do. And, and it just, nothing is gained. And I think that's, like you said, you can kind of create the world you want, but it's going to probably take some effort, to get there.
Absolutely, effort. And then time. I talk about time in my book as being a great asset. When you're wasting your time and just doing something that's spinning your wheels, like you said, playing a video game, if you're spending, 4 or 5 hours a day times, 7 days a week, like, that's a lot. That's almost like a full-time job. What could you do towards one of your goals, or, getting another job, or making more money with a side hustle? Time is limited. And I like to talk about time. I use a lot of vehicle analogies, or different analogies, as I'm sure you've seen in the book. But like, we're all born with the gas tank, of time. We don't know how long that time's going to be. You may have a 50-gallon tank. I may have a 45-gallon tank. But do you want to run efficiently too? Like, if you take care of yourself, that fuel is going to last a little longer. But time is a great asset, and you don't know when it's going to run out. So advantage of it in the now. That's why I even
Right.
in my book, my recommended reading list is Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now, because we say a lot of the similar same things, or like you mentioned when we first spoke, Napoleon Hill, like, the truth is the truth. And that's all I'm doing, is highlighting the truth to achieve success. And I've been blessed to do it in a way where it's really getting through to people. That's what's been amazing to me is how many people I've been able to touch. You know, I joined the military after
Right.
9/11, like we spoke, was to, you know, hey, I'm going to change the world. I'm going to make the world a better place. You know, and I did. I did great things with my team. I mean, you can kind of see some pictures in the background and whatnot, but, you know, that was fantastic. And that was a great chapter. But I'm now learning, honestly, the pen is mightier than the sword, or the rifle, as you know, I didn't want to run around with a sword. But
No, not so
you
much.
get the analogy, you know, like it really is. I'm touching more lives than I ever thought I would. I had a 92-year-old lady come up to me at like a book signing and say I changed her life. I'm like, you're 92. You must have so much experience and knowledge. You know,
Right.
like I want to learn from you. And she goes, no,
Right.
your book motivated me. I have a job again at 92 years old. I'm like, what?
Nice.
She goes, yeah, I had to get back out there, interact with people. And that's what I wanted to do. You know, and I was like, that type of stuff is inspiring to me. Like she got out of the house. She was just, you know, getting sick of just being sitting around and whatnot. And I was like, more power to you, woman. You know, I signed her book
Yeah.
and she smiles. I gave her a hug. And yeah, it was good stuff. Those are the type of things that really move you.
Yeah, no, I like it. That's the big thing. Like people need a purpose, I think, too. Like her going back and getting a job and whatever. It seems once people kind of have nothing going on, then they fade away. But people who are, still working at the store they created or whatever, just doing whatever it is you love. It doesn't even have to be a job. It's
Yep.
helping out at the shelter, or maybe people are caught up in their church and, all kinds of, just being involved. But you need a
Yep.
purpose, and you need a purpose that's fulfilling and, like you said, really hopefully benefiting the people around you. I mean, you obviously, have that mindset of like a servant kind of thing. If you put the effort and write this book and being in the military and doing something like that, I like it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been amazing. And I love how you say purpose. We all need that. I mean, I think that's kind of contributing to some of the issues that people are having with mental health.
Yeah.
Like, if you're not doing something that you believe in, or you don't feel internally, and it may be subconsciously too, like you don't have a purpose, if you feel your life is meaningless, like you're just going to some job you hate, coming home every day to like eat food, watch TV for a little bit, go to bed, get up, do the same thing all over again, like, of course you're going to feel horrible in life. Of course that's going to wear on you mentally and subconsciously. If you're doing something, you get up and you are like, wow, I can't wait to work with this person or work on this project, or, oh, I'm going to do this today. Like that's game changing. And I like to think about any event that you've done in your life, whether it's going on vacation, you were a kid, it was Christmas or your birthday, and you wake up, how do you feel on those days when you have a purpose or excitement? You have no problem getting out of bed. You're going on vacation and getting on a flight to go to the Bahamas or do something. Or if it's your birthday and you're going to be opening presents or got a party to go to, or whatever it may be, a wedding, those days, that'll show you right there the difference between living with a purpose and just going through the motions.
That's a great example. Like I like that, because you're right. I mean, that's it's what motivates you, and when you're motivated, you're accomplishing so much more. And that's the thing. Like people get caught up in a routine and whatever. And honestly, if your routine makes you happy, there's nothing wrong with that. If getting up, like you said, I kind of got the whole like farm thing going on here where it's, maybe not some people's mind. I don't know. To me, it's a big farm. To farmers, it's a small farm. It's, whatever. But, chickens and rabbits and dogs and things to plant and tractors and things going on. And to me, that makes me happy, right? I have purpose and whatever. And I used to kind of like, same thing. I think that's one of the big things that happens with a lot of military guys is you kind of, I don't know, a lot of the guys I know kind of don't want to be out hanging out with people and socializing and interacting with the world and kind of, I hate to use the word distaste for it, but I don't know. A lot of guys come back angry from military life. I'll say that. And when I kind of moved out of New York, where also people aren't exactly as chatty and friendly, everywhere you go in New York as they are maybe in the South. And now I was like, I'm going to change my life though. And like, it's that mindset of, all right, you know what? I'm going to go to, my wife does like a lot of farmers markets and things like that. And I'm going to go, and I start hanging out with the mayor in my small town at the farmers market, and we go around and meet everybody and whatever. And it's a different attitude and a different kind of mindset where you get out and involve with people, and it's really uplifting, and it really, helping other people like that is, is really game changing, I guess, with how your mental status, changes, your mental
Absolutely.
mindset,
Healthier. Yeah, you'll be much healthier, more positive. My dad told me many years ago that if you can lay your head on the pillow at night and know that you did something that day, at least one thing to move your life forward, so when you get up tomorrow, it's a better day, and you can lay your head on the pillow without stress, like you were a good person, you don't feel guilty about anything, you treated people right. He goes, and be at peace when you go to sleep. He goes, that's success.
Yeah.
And I think he's absolutely right on. It doesn't matter what success is to me, to you, or to any of your viewers. It matters to them what it is. Like if they can go to bed at night saying, you know what, I spent time working on my farm all day and I'm happy, I've got food I'm providing for the family, or I'm selling at the farmer's market, then guess what? They have reached success, in their world.
Right.
Someone else that's, hey, I'm trying to write a book, or I want to be a musician and I just recorded, my first song or whatever, then great. We all have different things or ideas that make us happy and what success is. So I think we should encourage each other, not put each other down, which I think that's happening a lot too, because people feel bad about themselves. And I talk about that in my book, A Crab Mentality. It's like the crabs in the bucket.
Oh, I know.
You have one in there, he can crawl out. You put a bunch in there. Every time one gets close to climbing out, the other ones pull it back down. It's like they don't want to see the other one be successful and get out. Now, not everybody's like that. And that's why I say you got to surround yourself with good people. But that is very important if you want to have success and purpose, is to find the motivation you want. And I try and do that in my book too. Like that's one of the things I speak about, is like, how do you find that spark? How do you go about knowing what am I going to do with my life, or what really makes me happy? And that's where you need to take time yourself and have some reflection. Go for a walk, be out in nature, get some alone time, do some meditation, whatever it is that works for you. But you got to figure out and reflect on what makes you happy.
Yeah, that's the big thing, is getting out and experiencing different things. I think makes a big difference in, how you're able to choose and shape your world. If you've only known certain things. But I also, back to your kind of crab mentality, that's so, and it's so obvious when you're looking at it. As far as like, I can hang out with people at work and I'm like, oh, I want to do this, new business thing and whatever. And, guys, oh, that can't work. And they just jump right on and kind of bring you down and defeat your ideas before you even move on. When I work with other people, it's, night and day, of, oh yeah, that's awesome. Look, I've done things like that. You could definitely do that, and it's who you surround yourself with. And that, is one of the benefits of like social media and that kind of thing, where you can find a group of positive people if there's not enough, around you. I mean, I'm not saying that should be maybe where you're going to find it. I like real people, as a general rule, but,
there's pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tool, right? Like we say with guns, we say with everything. It's, it's a tool. It can be good or bad. It can really, benefit you, or it can bring you down. And that's,
no, absolutely.
It's funny. I'm a electrician
oh, nice.
And so like I'm an electrician, and we kind of have that. It's kind of like that, like, the work schedule is like a fireman kind of thing, where if nothing breaks, you're just hanging around and a lot of free time. And I can be working on my podcast or doing, whatever, or I might, have, where I'm nonstop calls and everything's broken and the world's ending. It's one of those things.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here are keys to life and to being successful. And everybody can do it. And that's where I say, like, the asset mindset isn't just for special forces. Now, if you want to be in special forces, you better have the asset mindset. You better be able to overcome obstacles. You better be able to embrace the suck. But you can be a regular person, civilian, male, female, whatever it is, like, you can do that. Like, you can have the asset mindset. Many people have it. I've seen it through, celebrities and people that haven't served. They still get up early or have that work ethic or doing what needs to be done or having the passion to go after their dreams. And they spend hours working on a project or a song or whatever it may be.
How many people are like, oh, I wish I could write a book or do this, and they talk and then they waste, all this time on, I don't even know how you do it, how you find the time and commit. But I mean, I guess I do. I end up, working the time with my podcast and things like that. I mean, we actually put a decent amount of effort into, prepping stuff and setting up to, do research. I feel like if somebody's going to give me their time and, hey, I'm going to spend an hour with you a week or 40 minutes or whatever, then I know I'm not listening to somebody's podcast unless I feel like I'm getting a takeaway, where I'm like, hey, either one, I feel better about myself or whatever. But I mean, I'm usually looking for like, wow, I learned something I didn't know. Wow, that's a different approach to something that's, awesome that I didn't consider. And I want a takeaway. I want to learn something new. And if I'm going to take up your time, I want to give you something that, hey, it's worth showing up because look, I gave you some knowledge. I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to just fill the commute to work. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be like, I got through it,
Well, if you want to know any prepping stuff from a Special Forces Green Beret, we can talk that stuff too. I might know or have some experience about, getting ready.
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm sure. Now, well, what is your kind of take on the world right now? What are you thinking as far as what's going on? I mean, it's kind of crazy out there.
It is crazy. But if you study history, this isn't the only crazy moment in time.
Yeah.
So that I always kind of fall back on. I mean, you can look at the Cuban Missile Crisis. You can look at World War I, World War II, all these different things. Is it crazy? Do I feel we're teetering a little bit? Yes. Do I feel we're kind of losing our way as a country a little bit? Yes. But are we salvageable? That answer is also yes. Could we trip and fall? Every empire that's ever been on this earth hasn't lasted forever. So can we last longer? Yes. But I mean, we all have to be humble and realize we're not going to be on top forever.
Oh. Well,
it doesn't
think
work that way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. No, we
like
that idea.
And
right.
I hope we all generations, but it's just facts. But as far as the world right now, I think people need to be prepared to take care of themselves, their family, and the ones they love, and the people around them. If you are not ready for, a catastrophe or bad things happening, you could be in serious trouble. And we are not immune. A lot of people think here in America, like, oh, bad things can't happen. But look what just happened in Hawaii. Those people, if they weren't very, you can look at hurricane stuff where people are out of power. Texas had the heat wave and, power went out and they were having problems. Like, if you don't have the ability to make it for some time with your family, like you don't have water, you don't have energy, you don't have food. I mean, God forbid it ever happens. But if we have to go, we saw what happened with that whole virus stuff going around and shelves were empty. Imagine if it was real 6 months of like, there's no power in this power grid, or, you can't go to the grocery store and get food. What are you going to do? And that's going to be chaos because I don't care who you are, you're going to want to feed your kid. And if they're really starving and you're starving, you may skew your line
of what's moral or exactly.
Stuff. Yes. Like, you know what? I hate to do this, but I want my child to survive, or I want to feed my wife, or, so you need to be ready for things going bad. And another example, I think, is you talked about the world. Like, look at Ukraine. You go back a couple years ago, if you visited Ukraine and walked around beautiful cities, you know, you could go shopping, you could eat at restaurants. Now it's a war zone. It doesn't take very long to destroy a country. It takes a hell of a long time to rebuild it. If you blow up a building or something like that, that's one bomb. Boom. Seconds. How long does it take and how many people to clean up the rubble, rebuild? You're an electrician, wiring, you know, all the plumbing, everything. It's not a quick fix. It's easy to destroy stuff. It's not easy to rebuild.
No, definitely. I don't, it's amazing. We had listeners who were in Puerto Rico, you know, when they had all that issue, you know, what was it, 2 years ago, I guess, when they had that big hurricane that kind of like wiped out the island. And, you know, and I had guys reach out and were like, hey, you know, you pushed me to do the long-term food storage and man, it really paid off for me. And I'm like, and like you said, you get that satisfaction of, wow, you know, I really helped somebody, you know, kind of had them a little more prepared and whatever. And I think, you know, Glenn Beck had that book, The Overton Window or something. And he just, it's a mindset of, you know, of people, they've never seen it before. You know, America's never had real struggle, or at least in our lifetime, right? You know, obviously we had the Depression and things like that. Right. But I've never seen it. So I don't know what that would be like. And like you said, like, you know, you mentioned Ukraine, Venezuela was the same thing where, you know, Venezuela was thriving and amazing. And, you know, when Obama kept running around going, you know, that if I had a country, it would be Venezuela. That would be, you know, he also said Detroit, if he had a city, you know, that I don't know what happened there, but that's it. You know, the world can dramatically change. And even just like if people had their, you know, more, you know, I use the word long-term food storage. I don't mean your 25-year shelf life. I mean, you have a stockpile of food, you know, you have food that's going to last a little bit beyond, you know, this week. You know, some people really are like 2 days, you know, if they don't go to the grocery store on the way home from work, then there's a problem, you know, they don't have enough. And something like COVID or something, you know, something simple. Obviously COVID wasn't that simple, but something that isn't, you know, world changing. It's not an atomic bomb in the middle of town, but it's still, hey, you know, you're even losing your job, right? Something like that, having food storage, having stuff prepared, having your bills paid up, you know, for, you know, you kind of write out those checks at the beginning of the month instead of the end of the month. You know, that changes your emergency, you know, need status kind of thing, or, you know, having $2,000 in the bank or $4,000 or $6,000, you know, all relative to, you know, who you are, but makes a big difference and can really change things. And it also gives you peace of mind and makes you more confident to kind of take risks and move forward, I think, with other things, which is a nice plus, you know.
Yeah, it can take some of the stress away when you see crazy things happen in the world and you know you have that safety net.
Yeah.
You know, are you prepared? You know, we had a storm here, like we talked about. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It doesn't have to be an atomic bomb or a terrorist attack. We had, you know, windstorm come here this spring and it took down a tree. But when it took down the tree, it took down the whole entire electrical service from the weatherhead, meter box, everything. It pulled it all off the house, and it's laying on the ground. So yeah, the electricity, you know, the electric company is going around turning people's power back on, but they're not going to do that for me. And everybody's, you know, running around in different storms and power outage. Power got back in my neighborhood, but I was still without because my service was laying on the ground, even though they livened it up down the street in the pole. It's not getting to my house, you know, so we had to run on my propane generator. You know, luckily I was prepared. I had a large propane tank. I just ran the wires, boom, plugged it in, started it up. We had our fridge working, you know, we had stove, we had everything we needed to survive. And it made it so that it wasn't that bad. But my wife and I kept thinking, if we didn't have that generator, what would it be like? What would happen to our freezers? Because we have 2 freezers. Myself, we raise meat birds and we did 60 Cornish cross this year. We do that for a number, because we at least have one chicken a week.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we figure we can lose some or we can give a couple away, but you know, and then we have our layers, but we have freezers full of chicken and full of meat and other things.
Right.
And man, if power was out and we lost all that, I mean, that was so much
Yeah.
work. So, I mean, hundreds of pounds of meat that we would have lost,
Yeah.
you know? So it was nice to have that. And that's comforting. And I think everybody needs to have some of that in life.
Right.
Like you said, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to have 25, 30 years of food and,
Right.
you know, have a Connex full of different stuff, but at least have something.
I mean, hey, that's
Something
nice
on your
too. But,
you know, yeah. Oh,
you
the more the better. It's one of those things, right?
it's like people buying guns. I don't know. You know, one or two, who knows? But that's the thing is just being prepared. I think makes people more confident, you know, when you're not in a desperate situation, and taking the steps to, you know, change your life kind of to do that is huge. And like you said, if, you know, your job doesn't pay the bills, where it's like, well, I can't really, you know, buy any extra. I make just enough to make it to the end of the week, and that's it. I can never get ahead. Well, that's when you need to, you know, start looking at other things and expanding your horizon of, you know, what you can do. Now, I understand when you're working a million hours at the low paying job and you're nonstop and you got the boss cracking the whip going, don't look at your phone, don't, you know, nothing. I get that. That's, you know, it's a different level, you know. You know, people always say, well, it's easy for you to say, you know, because you've already, you know, accomplished whatever, or I don't know. I mean,
no, people like to do that to make themselves feel better. And that's where I'm trying to really make that mental shift and change in people with the asset mindset is you need to make the changes. Like you're saying, like, oh, I work all week, and you may be working hard, but you know what? We can all do a little more. You know, you can do that little bit of extra, find something. Or if you need a new skill set, maybe you need to study and learn to get a skill, to get a raise, to move up that ladder in whatever job you're working.
Right.
You know, and that little extra, I like to talk. I've heard this and I stole it from someone and I don't know who, but what's the difference between ordinary people and extraordinary people? It's just that little extra. It's the same where you just put extra in front of it. And like, if you do that in your life, it will absolutely be a game changer. And if you can get the mindset where you start thinking that way, instead of I can't and how do I, then it's a game changer.
Yeah. No, same. I just read something and I didn't write it down where it came from and whatever, but somebody was talking and they were saying that if you do 4 hours a week, I think it was, towards any goal, you'll be better than like 90% of the people who do it, you know, of actual effort. I know they were talking about like learning to play guitar or karate or, you know, whatever it is that you want to do. And I think sadly that's probably true. You know, people don't put effort into bettering, you know, themselves and changing things. And it's not, you know, it's funny, when I was a kid, like I did the, you know, guitar player and the rock and roll band thing and whatever. And I was fine and good enough, but I'd see people who are amazing and I'd be like, well, they're born with it, you know, oh, they, whatever. And then it was funny, a guy like rolled into town and was like, oh, you know, I have this band, I'm going on tour and my band's on the West Coast and I need a guitar player. I like you as a person, but, you know, we'll have to really commit if you want to, you know, come play around with me. And it was like, oh yeah, for the next 3 months, we're going to practice 4 hours a day. And then all of a sudden I'm like really good. And I'm like, oh, well, so that's what I should have been doing, is like, you know, if you want to change something, you got to, you know, put effort in and get some skin in the game. And people, I mean, obviously people are born and have natural talents and different things and things that you're, you know, better at or whatever. But it turns out that just making effort for a consistent, you know, amount of time can really be, you know, a big game changer on your ability. And we're so quick, I think, to just dismiss like, well, they're born with it, or their dad gave them money, or they, you know, whatever it is that makes it easy for everyone else. We always kind of, in our mind, the lazy way, I guess, is to be like, well,
That's
for
a
them.
mental scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And no, I think
that's
that's
exactly.
definitely true for a lot of people,
Yeah, and I will tell you, I've heard this across the board in many people in the military. I've heard it in the sports world. I will take effort over talent or heart over talent any
all
day,
day.
because you can be born with talent, and if you're not working on it, though, someone that works every day, work ethic and heart can outwin talent.
All day.
And I'm serious with that. And I think there's a prime example out there in the world. Love him, hate him, whatever. Tom Brady. You know, when he came into the NFL, he wasn't the fastest quarterback. He wasn't the best quarterback. But that guy worked. He learned and put effort in. I remember hearing like he was the first guy at practice and the last guy to leave. And look what that did for him.
Right.
No quarterback has ever won so many Super Bowls. What has he got? Like 7 now or something?
Ridiculous.
7 rings.
Yeah.
You know, it's incredible. But other great basketball players, what'd they do? You know, Kobe Bryant. He's like, hey, I'm up, you know, shooting this many baskets, doing this. If I do an extra hour or two, you know, a day, that's 365 hours of extra practice I have, you know, just 1 hour, 365 days of practice in a year than my competitors. But if I'm doing 2, now I've done, you know, 730, you know, it just, those type of things, that's that little extra, and people can do it. And I hope your viewers realize that, whether it's prepping, whether it's a job, just do that little extra.
Yeah.
You know, get focused, put the work in, and then you're going to gain momentum. It's hard in the beginning. It's like the first time you go to the gym, you know, the next day you're sore and it's hard, but the more you do it, you adapt.
Right.
You know, you overcome those problems and it starts feeling good and you gain momentum. So whatever the dream or the goal you have is, if you can get momentum going, I mean, you're going to go a lot further than you think you could. Like, I never imagined that I would be where I'm at.
Right.
You know, when I was a kid in high school, I came from a small town. You know, there was like, geez, just not even that many. I think my whole entire school, 9th through, you know, 12th grade, high school, had like 400 kids.
Yeah, it's
You
small.
know what I mean? And there's graduating classes
Yeah.
that have more than 400 kids at some
yeah.
schools. Now, it's not the smallest school in the world,
Right.
but, you know, like I've talked to some old friends and they're like, I can't believe, like, you know, you work for Kid Rock, or,
Right.
you know, you've been
That's
in
cool,
Special
right?
Forces.
Yeah.
How did that, like, how did you come from this small town here, you know, in the suburbs, like, to know and do and achieve all this stuff? Like,
Right.
so it's possible. And the American dream is still out there.
Nice.
You know, your dreams are out there. Whatever it is you want to do, you can make it happen. You just got to do the work.
Yeah.
But you can make the work fun too.
Now, definitely, like you said, though, that mindset. It's funny. I've lately have been in kind of sitting in on the hiring process and looking at new, candidates coming in for our mechanics and electricians. And I'll get guys who are like, yeah, I've been doing this 25 years, and we'll ask them questions and whatever. But they're confident and whatever, but you can just kind of see that they already know it all. It's one of those, I always like to say, you can't learn anything if you already know it all. And that's the thing. But if I get a guy who's like, you know what, I really am willing to put the effort and learn this. I don't know this one thing, this one section of the job, but that I could really, that to me right away, I'm like, oh, cool, that guy's fine. I'm not worried about the couple of skills that you don't have. Because like you said, being trainable or whatever is, but, and that's so much better than the guy who believes he already knows it all. But
no, absolutely. And that's where I'm going to keep falling back on. The mindset is so key, and having that asset mindset philosophy, you're always growing. You were in the military too. I mean, you were in infantry, but like we always say, the fighting positions, you're always improving your fighting position. You don't just build a hide site and then leave it. Guess what? That foliage you put out there, the sun bakes on it all day. The leaves start wilting. It shows like you're constantly upkeeping. You constantly need to do that in your life. And I know we spoke a little bit about ownership. I'm going to go back to that now, because I think people need to understand how much ownership they need to take of their goals and their dreams. If you have a pet, I know you mentioned a dog. What do you have to do with that dog? every day you need to let it out. You need to feed it. You need to water it. You need to keep it healthy. You need to take care of it. You need to pet it, groom it, take it to the vets, give it whatever medicine it needs. Every day you are owning that pet. You need to own your dreams and own your goals like you own your pet. Are you working on a dream every single day? Like you take care of your pet? That's ownership. So if you need to make something happen, that's how you need to own it.
I like it. No, I think that's right though. And people, like I said, it's so easy to be mentally lazy and just dismiss it as, well, that's for other people. But I think you're right on. It's people need to, own it and move forward. And that's even, the job that I'm at now. I did good, but I didn't have like benefits, so I had my own like small business, or I worked with another guy and for a small business, and the other guys, whatever. But the we had that, and I was like, well, I want to get out of New York. I don't want to pay 12,000 a year in taxes, in property taxes. And now I'm like 1,400 or something. It's a little different shift, and I'm like, we could change that. And and gun laws were important to me, and New York was definitely going in the wrong direction. And I was like, I need to find a way out. But in order to do it, I had to do the uncomfortable of, well, one, I may have to go work for somebody where, I'm working for a company, which I'd not done in forever or whatever. And I had to, the job I ended up taking, they were like, oh, look, you have to do these like 6 college classes while you're here. And, and that's effort and uncomfortable. And I'm like, oh, I'm, at the time, like 40 years old, and I got to go back to college at the community college with a bunch of 18-year-olds. And that's probably not going to be that fun for me. And, but it's all these things. And, your pay isn't going to be amazing day one, but you'll get there in a year and a half or whatever. And I'm like, all right, it's like there were all these uncomfortable steps. Plus, we all know moving and whatever is stressful and chaotic, but it was so worth to get the outcome. It was worth giving up and making all these changes to, get where I can have my own land and do, I had my own house and whatever, but now I can have what I want. Now I have the 100-yard shooting range in the backyard, different things. It's a different world. And it's not to brag. I made sacrifices. People always say, oh, well, that was easy for you. Well, no, it wasn't. Like I used to have rental properties when I was a kid, and everyone be like, well, that's easy for you, but not for other people. And I'm like, no, I made sacrifices, and I had some windfalls, but I also had some really uncomfortable times of, is that house going to sell or whatever? I don't have anybody paying rent this month and I got to figure it out. There's sacrifices you make to get where you want to be. And we all make choices. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is making choices and deciding to get there.
Yeah. You want to make good choices, to move your life ahead, or are you just going to make poor choices? That's why I say nobody affects your life more than you do, positively or negatively.
Right.
And I think your viewers know that. That's why they're turning in and they're trying to make their lives better. They're trying to prepare for their future. And that's key. Like you need to enjoy the moment, but you still should be looking ahead, planning. So your moment should add up to something in the future.
Yeah, no, that's definitely right. Now I don't want to take up your whole morning here, but now I'd be the bad guy if I didn't ask you about some of your big rock star stories here, hanging out with rock stars. What's the excitement?
Well, I can honestly say I didn't get to bed till 2:00 in the morning last night doing some security work with Rock. I can't say what we were doing and what was going on, but it was definitely interesting, and it possibly at some point could make the news again. Who knows? You never know with media or TMZ or different things.
Right.
But now that, I will give you a little something that your viewers can have and most people don't know as far as Kid Rock. Like, he's the American badass, but you know what's hilarious? I pull security on him when he goes to the antique stores. So when we fly in and we're going somewhere for a concert and like we're there a day early or whatever, he's going to go antique shopping.
And that's always
Kid Rock, the antiquer.
Nice.
Yeah. one of the things. Yeah. I mean, he does a lot of other stuff too. He loves shooting, hunting, and whatnot. But that's just, myself until I got to know him and, worked with him since 2009. Now we met in 2008. So we're going on 15 years. We've known each other. And that was just funny. I never imagined that in the beginning.
Now, how'd you get into something like that? Were you just already doing security for people or how'd that work out?
No, that was God's plan, so to speak. I mean, I was in the Bahamas in 2008 on my birthday. So the year before, I was in Afghanistan, literally running missions and clearing houses and whatnot on my birthday. So I wanted to do something, that following year. And I just gotten off active duty, like 10 days before or something like that, a week before. And, I'm down there in the Bahamas and I'm chilling out on the beach. I hear a bunch of loud music and I'm like, man, let's see what's going on. I want to have some drinks, have fun. It's my birthday. Who is it? It's Kid Rock in his private cabana on the beach, jamming out because he's passionate about music. And I was like, man, that's Kid Rock. You know what? He does a lot for the troops. I got to go up and say thank you and give some gratitude for his support. Well, one thing led to another. He's giving me gratitude about my service, finds out it's my birthday. He's like, let me buy you a drink. We hang out for 3 days, and he's like, you got a job? And I'm like, well, I'm looking at doing some stuff and some contracting work or whatnot. But he goes, well, when I get back from Europe, because he had to go over to Europe or something, he goes, I'm going to hit you up. I might have something for you. Nice. And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Rock down in the Bahamas.
Get right on that. Yeah.
He's going to call me for a job, He's a man of his word, and he did. And I went, and he's like, I'm happy if you're happy. You do a good job. Nice. You work hard. And I'm like, okay, I'll take the job. And I'd worked for him for 2 years and maintained a friendship. I went back because touring slowed down and I was still, I like serving and being with the active duty military still in that community. So I was still doing my DOD work, working with Green Berets and Navy SEALs and whatnot. So that was still good to be in the fight to some degree, but passing the torch on. And then I moved to Nashville, and he's now a resident here in Nashville. And so he's like, hey, I could use you again when I moved down here. And so for the last couple of years, I've been back on the Kid Rock train doing security.
Nice. Yeah, no, when I was in the Navy, he was always doing all kinds of cool stuff for the troops back, forever. And I remember when the Cole got bombed, bunch of guys I knew went over and basically got it and brought it back. And in the Navy, whenever you pull away, they play a breakaway song kind of thing when you leave a port. So they were playing American Badass which you're not usually getting a song like that out of the Navy ships. But when they pulled the Cole out of Yemen there, they were playing that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I actually have some pieces of the Cole that I've seen that he has at his house. And know the story of how that all happened, playing the American Badass and the guy locking himself in the room so they couldn't stop him from playing it. And it's some interesting stuff. But that's the American spirit, when you get down to the core. Our founding fathers and everybody no, we're not going to take shit from people, and we're going to stand up for what's right. And I think we still have it. We just need to rekindle it a little bit. But I think the pendulum swings back and forth in life and throughout history. So I think we'll be having a swing back to more core values and not the foolish minority ruling the majority.
Yeah, I hear you. Sometimes those lessons come hard. But I will say, people get politicians were never this corrupt and never, this, slanderous or whatever. And then you read some of the stuff of the campaigns with the founding fathers and stuff like that. And they were pretty crazy back then too. And, it's kind of always been there. And it just, like you said, kind of goes in cycles a little bit of, how aggressive and how open it is, I guess. But no, it definitely, it repeats itself, history, but I'm afraid that the learning curve may be a little hard and long, and we'll see how it plays out. It's better to be prepared, I guess, is the answer. So
absolutely. prepared for everything.
So if people want to get their mind straight and kind of figure out how to kind of maybe change their attitude, their approach on life, and find out how to get ahead, they want to check out your book, The Asset Mindset. Where are we going to get it?
Well, you can go to my website, theassetmindset.com, and go to the book section, and you can click buy now, or you can type in bit.ly/the asset mindset, and that'll take you to my publisher's Simon & Schuster page. And then you can pick and choose where you want to buy it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. Any one of those places have it. We're all over the place.
Nice.
And if you get the book and you like it, please leave a review. Chuck, please leave a review. Reviews help a lot with all the algorithm stuff, as I'm sure you know, with podcasts and things. A lot of that technical stuff helps out. So.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
And hey,
it was
if
enjoyable.
you buy it now and leave the reviews now, it'll give you the big push to make it a New York Times bestseller. It's really what we're after, right?
That's what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed.
Living your best life.
Christmas is right around the corner. If you know anybody that, it doesn't have to be just for yourself. If I get a second, I can share a quick story.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman that got the book, and he got it for himself. Well, it turns out his daughter got a hold of it and ended up reading it, and it changed her life. She was in therapy dealing with mental health issues, anxiety, depression. And he goes, my book in a week changed her more than 3 years of therapy that they've been sending her
Nice.
to. He goes, I saw that change. He goes, I bought the book for all my nieces, nephews, everybody I knew that could need the help mentally. So don't just think of yourself, think of the circle around you and the people that, maybe you can help.
So really everybody needs to go out and buy 4 or 5 copies. Just be ready to go.
That
would help. All right. So, and like you said, reviews when you buy the book, reviews for the podcast, anywhere you're listening, comments, give it a like, all that stuff on YouTube. We appreciate it. Otherwise, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.